Emma stood frozen in the middle of the lake house, eyes wide as she watched her older brother, Brian, slap her 6-year-old daughter Mia across the face. The room went completely silent. Emma's father, Gerald, gave a small smirk and muttered, "Well, maybe she'll learn some shame now." Her mother, Susan, let out a high-pitched laugh and sipped her drink like nothing had happened. Nobody moved. For a second, Emma couldn't breathe. The sound of the slap echoed in her ears. Her daughter's cheek was red and her coloring book had dropped to the wooden floor. Where are you watching from today? Kindly hit like, comment and subscribe to this channel for more. As Emma rushed forward, scooping Mia into her arms, the horror of it all set in. Her daughter sobbed into her chest, confused and hurt. "What is wrong with you?" Emma shouted at Brian, who crossed his arms like he'd done nothing wrong. "She's just a kid." "She's a loud kid," Brian said coldly. "And someone had to teach her some manners." Emma looked around the room expecting someone to say something. But all the adults were quiet. Her father folded his newspaper neatly and said, "You're overreacting, Emma. A little discipline never hurt anyone." Emma's hands shook with anger. What they didn't know was that the microphone Brian's brother-in-law Mark had set up for the family's documentary had recorded every word. Every insult. Every laugh. And every slap. Growing up in the Carter family, Emma had always known her place. She was the problem child, the one who talked too much, asked too many questions, and needed to be corrected. Her brother Brian, on the other hand, could do no wrong. He was the golden boy. Tall, athletic, smart, and loud just like their father. Gerald praised him at every turn. Emma, however, took more after their mother in looks. Brown eyes, light brown hair, but not in behavior. While Susan smiled and followed Gerald's rules without question, Emma pushed back. She wanted to be heard. "Emma just doesn't know how to behave," Susan would say at family dinners. "Not like our Brian." By the time Emma was 16, she had learned to disappear. She kept her head down, did well in school, and counted the days until she could leave home. At college she met Daniel. He was kind, funny, and saw her in a way her family never had. He listened when she talked. He cared about what she felt. She was only 20 when they got married, young and maybe a bit rushed, but she wanted a new family, a better one. Susan and Gerald came to the wedding, dressed in expensive clothes and tight smiles. Brian gave a speech filled with fake compliments and jokes that stung. "Didn't think Emma would find someone willing to take her on," he said, raising his glass. For a few years, Emma believed she had escaped. She and Daniel lived in a small apartment while she finished her degree in communications. She worked part-time as a receptionist. It wasn't glamorous, but it felt like a fresh start. They weren't rich, but they were happy. When Mia was born, everything changed. Emma gave birth on a rainy Tuesday morning. The baby had Daniel's bright blue eyes and her soft brown hair. Holding her daughter in the hospital room, Emma whispered a promise. "You'll always know you are loved. You'll never wonder if you're enough." But when Mia turned 3, the cracks in her marriage began to show. Daniel came home late more often. He smiled less. Emma found texts from a woman named Kelly on his phone. When she asked him about it, he denied it at first. But eventually he admitted the truth. He had been cheating for 6 months. They tried counseling, but Daniel was already gone in his heart. By the time Mia turned 4, the divorce papers were signed. Emma never told her parents the truth. She just said they had grown apart. She knew what Susan would say anyway. And she was right. "Men don't leave good wives," her mother said over the phone. "What did you do to push him away?" Single motherhood wasn't easy. Emma worked full-time as an administrative assistant at a marketing company. The job barely covered rent, food, and daycare. Some months she had to ask her parents for help, with car repairs, school supplies, or medicine for Mia. Each time Gerald gave her the same speech about poor life choices. "You should have made better decisions, Emma. You should have been more like your brother." Brian was still the shining example. Now vice president at a big financial firm, married to a pediatrician named Laura, and living in a huge house outside the city. "No kids yet," Brian would say with a proud smile. "We're building our careers first." Emma's parents never stopped comparing. "If only you worked harder," Susan told her. "You could have a life like Brian's." Still, Emma tried to keep the peace. She wanted Mia to know her grandparents. Children deserve a connection to their family, she thought. Even if she had to play referee to protect Mia from the harshness she herself had grown up with. So when Gerald invited the whole family to the lake house reunion, Emma hesitated. It had been 3 years since she last went. You really going back there? Her friend Kara asked. Those people never supported you. They're still family, Emma replied softly. And Mia loves the lake. Mia couldn't stop smiling when she heard about the lake trip. At 6 years old she was full of life. She loved singing, especially songs from her favorite cartoons. She danced around the apartment, spinning in circles, her tiny voice echoing through the rooms. Emma packed their bags slowly, anxiety building in her chest. Will Uncle Brian be there? Mia asked excitedly. And Grandma and Grandpa? And can I swim every day? Yes, Emma replied with a smile she didn't feel. Everyone will be there. And you can swim as much as you want. She didn't tell Mia that her Uncle Mark would be filming the reunion for a family documentary. Gerald was proud of Brian's success and wanted to capture their family legacy, mainly Brian's story. As they drove to the lake house, Emma repeated calming thoughts in her head. It's just a weekend. I can do this. I'll protect Mia. I'm not that scared girl anymore. But even as she tried to believe it, a quiet voice inside her whispered, you can't protect her from them if you walk right into their house. The Carter family lake house stood like a giant on the edge of the water. Wooden walls, stone chimney, big windows overlooking the lake. Emma parked their small silver sedan behind her father's black SUV and Brian's shiny sports car. Her chest tightened. We're here. Mia shouted, unbuckling her seatbelt and bouncing with joy. She had no idea her mother was already bracing for impact. Hold on, sweetheart, Emma said gently. Let's grab our things and go say hi first. The front door opened before they even got to the steps. Susan stood there, dressed in perfectly ironed white pants and a soft beige sweater. Her makeup was flawless, her blonde hair curled like she'd just walked out of a salon. There you are, Susan said, giving Emma a once-over. We thought maybe you changed your mind. Traffic was heavy, Emma replied, forcing a smile. She leaned in for a quick, stiff hug. Good to see you, Mom. Susan's expression warmed slightly when she turned to Mia. There's our little singer. Come on in. Everyone's waiting. Inside the house, voices and laughter echoed through the high ceilings. The great room was busy with people placing food on platters and drinks on tables. Gerald stood by the fireplace, deep in conversation with Uncle Dean. He barely looked up. Emma, he said with a nod before going back to his talk about real estate investments. Brian appeared from the kitchen with Laura beside him. He wore a button-down shirt, sleeves rolled up, looking every bit like the confident businessman their parents adored. His arm rested around Laura's shoulders as he smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Well, if it isn't the long-lost sister, Brian said loudly enough for everyone to hear. And look at little Mia. You've grown. Still singing all the time. Mia tucked herself behind Emma's leg and whispered, Hi, Uncle Brian. Laura stepped forward with a kind smile. It's good to see you, Emma. Mia, your cousins are playing down by the dock if you want to join them later. Can I go, Mom? Mia asked, her eyes lighting up. We'll take our bags to the room first, Emma said gently. Then we'll see. Brian sipped his drink and raised an eyebrow at Emma. Still at that tiny marketing firm? Assistant to, who is it again? Administrative assistant, Emma said, keeping her tone even. And I just got a small promotion last month. I lead a project team now. Well, good for you, Brian replied with fake cheer. I just landed a 7-figure deal last week. Dad was impressed. Big bonus incoming. Right on cue, Gerald walked over and clapped Brian on the back. That's my son, always aiming higher. You should take notes, Emma. Emma swallowed hard and turned toward the bay windows where Mark was setting up his camera. He gave her a small nod. Mark had married Susan's niece but never quite fit in. He was quiet, thoughtful, and didn't seem impressed by the family show. Planning to capture everyone's best side? Emma asked as she passed by him. Trying to, he replied under his breath. Your dad wants as much footage as possible of Brian's success stories. Of course he does, Emma muttered. Their room was the smallest in the house, tucked into the far end of the hallway with no lake view, just trees and a neighbor's roof. Emma helped Mia unpack, smoothing out the little dresses and pajamas they had folded so carefully. Can I wear my blue swimsuit tomorrow? Mia asked, pulling it from the bag. And can I sing my song at the dock? I've been practicing. Emma paused, then nodded. Of course, baby. Just try to wait for a quiet moment, okay? Sometimes adults get annoyed when they're talking. Okay, Mia said, humming softly as she placed her clothes in the drawer. Emma's heart ached. Mia's excitement, her voice, her joy. It reminded her so much of herself at that age, before years of silence had been forced on her. She wouldn't let that happen to Mia. After they settled in, they went down for dinner. As expected, the meal was filled with questions about Brian's career, his house, his future plans. Gerald asked nothing about Emma's life except to suggest she look into real estate as a backup plan. Susan commented on Emma's haircut. Maybe something more professional would help you move up faster, she said with a sweet smile. Even Mia wasn't spared. She's quite lively, Susan said after dessert, watching Mia dance near the table. Don't you think some discipline would help calm her down? She's 6, Emma replied, her jaw tight. She's just being a kid. Mia's cousins were less polite. The older ones corrected her words, rolled their eyes when she spoke too loudly, and made quiet jokes behind her back. Emma saw it all. It was the same treatment she had received growing up, disguised as polite correction but meant to silence and shame. Later that evening, Emma helped clean the kitchen. Mark was adjusting his camera equipment when Aunt Linda walked over. Brian mentioned you're struggling since the divorce, she said casually. There's an opening in our mailroom if you need something steady. Thanks, Emma replied. But I'm up for a new role at Madison soon. Linda patted her arm like she didn't believe a word of it. Well, sometimes we have to be realistic. That night, as she tucked Mia into bed, the little girl looked up at her. Cousin Emma said I sing too loud. And Uncle Brian said girls should be quiet if they want to be liked. Emma swallowed hard. Listen to me, Mia. Your voice is beautiful. And don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the curtains. Mia woke early, full of excitement. She climbed onto Emma's bed and whispered, Mom, wake up. Uncle Mark said they're making waffles downstairs. She was already dressed in her favorite blue sundress with yellow butterflies. Emma rubbed her eyes and smiled weakly. I'm up. Let's get ready and go down together. Downstairs, the great room buzzed with activity. It had vaulted ceilings, big windows facing the lake, and perfect acoustics that made every sound feel louder. Gerald sat at the head of the long dining table, reading the newspaper. Susan stood by the kitchen, giving orders to the catering staff. Emma held Mia's hand and offered a quiet good morning to the room. A few distracted nods followed. Coffee's over there, Susan said without turning around. Mia, go sit with the children at the small table. Emma glanced over at Mark, who was discreetly adjusting his microphones in the corners of the room. He gave her a quick wave. Still filming the legacy? Emma asked under her breath. Your dad wants natural family conversations, Mark whispered with a small shrug. Authentic interactions, he said. Emma poured herself a cup of coffee and kept an eye on Mia, who had joined her cousins at the kids' table. Mia was chatting excitedly, trying to make friends, but Emma could see the tension building already. The other children barely responded to her. Mark's cameras weren't pointed at the children, but the microphones would pick up everything. About 30 minutes into breakfast, the adults were deep into conversation, mimosas flowing, voices louder. Mia had moved to a corner with her coloring book and softly began to sing a song from her favorite cartoon. Her sweet voice drifted through the air. Emma smiled. It was soft, innocent, and filled with joy. But Brian's face tightened. He kept darting looks at Emma, clearly annoyed. At one point, Susan leaned over and said, Don't you think Mia is being a bit disruptive? Emma was about to respond when Mia's voice rose for the chorus. She wasn't yelling, just singing with her whole heart. Brian slammed his glass on the table. For God's sake, can't you control your child for 5 minutes? Emma stood up, ready to quietly ask Mia to lower her voice. But at that moment Brian pushed his chair back. The noise of it scraped across the wooden floor. He stood and began marching toward the kids' area with heavy steps. Emma started to follow, but her Aunt Linda pulled her back with a question about the guest rooms. Just a second, Emma said, distracted for only a moment. And that was all it took. Brian reached Mia, who looked up with her bright eyes and innocent smile. Before she could speak, his hand came down hard across her cheek. The sound was loud. Everyone heard it. Mia's body jolted and her coloring book fell. Her cheek turned red instantly. Emma screamed, What are you doing? Brian looked around the room like nothing unusual had happened. Like mother, like daughter. Both loud and useless. Emma rushed to her daughter, cradling her against her chest. Mia was sobbing, trembling with shock and pain. Emma glared at her brother. She's a child. You hit a 6-year-old. She needs to learn the world doesn't revolve around her singing, Brian replied. Maybe if someone had taught you that, you wouldn't be a divorced assistant raising a spoiled brat. Emma snapped. Administrative assistant. And she is not a brat. She's a joyful, creative child. Gerald calmly folded his newspaper. Audrey, you're overreacting. A little discipline is healthy. Susan added, Emma never learned how to be quiet either. Maybe this will teach her daughter something. Emma looked around, shocked that no one else seemed disturbed. Only Mark stood frozen by his camera equipment, his face pale. Then she remembered, the microphones. Everything had been recorded. Brian noticed too. His eyes flicked to Mark and the small devices set around the room. Emma stood slowly, Mia clinging to her. We're done. No one hits my daughter. No one. Susan rolled her eyes. Oh please. It was just a little tap. You're embarrassing yourself. Emma's voice rose. My brother slapped a 6-year-old for singing. And I'm the embarrassment. Brian stepped closer, fists clenched. Watch your tone. That was discipline. Emma held her ground. Stay away from us. Running away again? Brian called after her. That's all you ever do. Emma didn't answer. She just focused on Mia, carrying her upstairs to their room. Behind her, she heard glasses clinking and conversation starting again, like nothing had happened. But everything had changed. In their room, Emma sat Mia gently on the bed. Her cheek still had the red imprint of Brian's hand. She sobbed softly now, wiping her eyes with the sleeve of her dress. Emma got a cold washcloth and pressed it gently against Mia's face. It hurts, Mia whispered. Did I do something bad? Emma's heart shattered. No, sweetheart. You were not bad. You did nothing wrong. Uncle Brian was wrong. But Grandpa said, Mia began. Grandpa was wrong too, Emma said firmly. Nobody should hit you. Ever. Mia leaned into her. Even if I sing too loud? Especially then, Emma replied, kissing her forehead. Your voice is beautiful. As Mia began to calm down, Emma moved around the room, packing their things with shaking hands. They couldn't stay here. If they did, her family would twist it all just like they always had. And soon Mia would question her own memory just like Emma once had. A soft knock came at the door. Emma tensed. Who is it? She asked sharply, standing between the door and Mia. It's Mark, came the quiet voice. Just me. Can I talk to you? Alone. Emma opened the door slightly. Mark looked troubled. I got it all, he said. The slap. The things Brian said. Your dad, your mom. It's all on the recording. Emma's eyes widened. Can I have a copy? Mark nodded. I'll download it to a USB. Meet me by my car in 20 minutes. Emma's voice shook. Thank you. Mark looked down the hall. They won't realize until it's too late. But you'll have the truth. He left and Emma locked the door behind him. She turned to Mia, who had curled up under the blanket. We're going to see Aunt Kara soon, okay? Mia nodded sleepily. Emma called Kara immediately. She picked up on the second ring. Hey, how's the reunion? Brian hit Mia, Emma said, voice cracking. He slapped her in front of everyone. And my parents laughed. There was silence. Then Kara's voice came through, full of rage. You're leaving, right? Tell me you're packing. I'm already packed, Emma said. We're coming to your place. Good. Don't even go home. Come straight here. I'll make the guest room ready. Emma hung up and sat beside Mia for a moment. Her daughter had fallen asleep, worn out from crying. Emma brushed her hair back softly. 20 minutes later, with her bag in one hand and Mia in the other, Emma made her way downstairs. Susan stepped into the foyer. Where do you think you're going? Susan asked sharply. Emma didn't flinch. Home. You're overreacting, Susan said. It was hardly a slap. Emma shifted so Susan could see Mia's cheek. The red mark was still clear. For a second Susan's eyes wavered, but only for a second. Children bruise easily, she said. Don't turn this into drama. Emma laughed bitterly. If I slapped Brian for insulting me, would that be nothing too? That's different, Susan replied. He's an adult. And she's a child, Emma snapped. One you're supposed to protect. Gerald stepped into view. Emma, sit down. Have a drink. We can talk about this calmly. There's nothing left to say, Emma replied. We're done. If you walk out that door, Gerald said coldly, don't expect help paying your rent next month. Emma paused. It was the same threat they'd used for years. Money. Control. She looked him in the eye. Keep your money. It's not worth my daughter's safety. Just then Brian came from the living room, drink in hand. Still running away, little sister? Can't face your mess, so you play victim? Emma turned to him, full of clarity. The only mess I'm running from is the one this family keeps hiding behind money and tradition. He sneered. Is that a threat? No, Emma said, pulling open the door. It's a warning. Outside, Mark waited beside his car. Hidden by a group of trees, he handed her the USB. Everything's on it, he whispered. Use it however you need to. Emma drove straight to Kara's apartment. The sun had just begun to set, casting long shadows across the city streets. Mia slept quietly in the back seat, her face peaceful but still marked by the fading red imprint. Emma's fingers tightened on the steering wheel. Her chest ached, but her mind was clear. At Kara's place, warm light spilled from the windows. Kara opened the door the moment Emma knocked, pulling her into a tight hug. Guest room's ready. You can stay as long as you need. Emma nodded, overwhelmed with gratitude. That night, while Mia slept in the next room, Emma and Kara sat at the kitchen table. Emma plugged in the USB. They listened to the audio, the slap, the insult, the laughter. Kara's face hardened. He shouldn't be allowed near any child again. Emma spent the next few days building her plan. She took Mia to the pediatrician, who documented the bruise and referred them to a trauma counselor. She's showing early signs of stress response, the doctor said gently. Nightmares, fear of loud male voices. Therapy will help. Emma nodded. She also reached out to Lisa, a friend from college who now practiced law. After listening to the audio, Lisa said, you might not win a criminal case. It's murky, but civil action? Or public consequences? That's different. He's a public figure, right? That night, Emma stayed up late reading about Brian's job. He was on the board of a children's charity, a mentorship program, and still held a VP role at Meridian Financial. His career relied on reputation. She didn't want revenge. She wanted accountability. 3 days later, Mia woke up screaming from a nightmare. Uncle Brian was chasing me, she sobbed. He wanted to hit me for singing again. Emma held her close, whispering, you're safe now, baby. No one's going to hurt you. That moment sealed it. The next morning, she contacted the child psychologist her doctor had recommended. After just one session, the psychologist confirmed, this wasn't minor. Mia is dealing with real trauma. But she's strong and so are you. With that, Emma compiled the evidence. She trimmed the recording to the clearest section. The slap, the insults, the laughter. She wrote 3 short emails. One to Brian's company board, one to the charity board, and one to the youth mentorship program. No threats. No drama. Just the facts. Then she hit send. Within hours, her phone buzzed non-stop. Brian's tone flipped from smug to panicked. What have you done? He texted. They're talking about suspending me. You need to fix this. Gerald sent a cold message. You've betrayed your family. Susan's was more desperate. Please, Emma. Call us. We can fix this together. He blocked them all. Mark called that evening. Your brother's freaking out. Your mom's crying. But I want you to know, people are listening. The next day, Brian's wife Laura reached out. They met at a quiet cafe. Laura looked tired, her eyes puffy. I heard the recording. I knew he had a temper, but this, I'm leaving him. She wiped her eyes. He never hit me, but I see it now. Thank you for helping me see. Emma reached across the table. I didn't want to hurt you. I just wanted to protect Mia. The fallout was fast. Meridian Financial placed Brian on leave. The children's charity removed him from their board. His mentoring program suspended him indefinitely. Emma returned to work, where her boss assured her she had full support. The community around her shifted. Co-workers offered support. Neighbors dropped off meals. Other moms shared similar stories. Mark told her that more family members were finally speaking up. Turns out this wasn't the first time. At home Mia began healing. She still flinched at loud sounds but started singing again, quiet at first then louder. Emma sat with her each time whispering, "You're safe. Sing as loud as you want." And she did. 6 months later, Emma hosted a small gathering at her apartment. Just friends, supporters and family who had stood by her. Kara brought cake. Mark brought his kids. Laura, now separated from Brian, arrived with her sister. Emma's grandmother, once silent, came with Susan trailing behind. "I want to hear Mia sing," Grandma said. Mia stepped forward, standing by the window, sunlight in her curls. She sang a soft song about courage and kindness. Her voice was clear, strong, unafraid. The room went quiet, then erupted in applause. Susan dabbed her eyes. "She has a beautiful voice," she whispered. Emma nodded. "She always did. You just didn't want to hear it." That night, as they curled up on the couch, Mia resting against her side, Emma knew the worst was behind them. Not because her family changed, but because she had. And Mia would grow up knowing her voice was powerful, never too loud to be loved. Moral lesson. Protecting your child may mean standing up to the people who raised you. It may mean walking away from those who taught you to shrink. But healing begins the moment you choose courage over silence, and love over legacy. Remember to hit the like button, comment and subscribe to this channel for more of this.